faithfully sharing value, interpreting great books from around the world. Hello, this is Sally's Book Talk. On the fourth day of the Year of the Tiger, we're talking about orcas. Today, the book we're interpreting for you is called Beneath the Surface. The subtitle is Orcas, SeaWorld, and the Truth Behind Blackfish. Orcas are large marine mammals. They have a sleek, elegant body with black and white coloration. Because they often show their sickle-shaped dorsal fin above water, they're also known as killer whales. From the icy Arctic and Antarctic to tropical waters, orcas inhabit all the world's oceans. In the 1960s, humans began capturing orcas, and North American aquariums started orca shows. Under the guidance of trainers, big circle, bow, splash huge waves at the audience, and even leap out of the water with their trainers. Their massive size and intelligent, gentle nature make orcas the undisputed star animals in aquariums. People are deeply captivated by orcas' strength and intelligence, enjoying the joy they bring, yet intentionally or unintentionally ignoring the truth behind orca shows. These speechless performers are not happy. In their daily captive life, their nature is suppressed, their personalities distorted, suffering physical and mental torment. Today's book, Beneath the Surface, will uncover these bloody truths. The book's author is a former orca trainer with 14 years of experience. His name is John Hargrove, an American. John loved orcas since childhood, aspired to become an orca trainer, and as an adult, he fulfilled his dream by entering the largest marine theme park in the U.S. He worked at SeaWorld as a whale trainer. This career forged deep bonds with orcas, but it also made him gradually realize that the beautiful image of harmonious interaction between humans and orcas, seen by the public, was just a lie, fabricated by the marine park.
This lie not only subjected orcas to suffering, but also often put trainers in dangerous situations.
In 2012, John appeared in the documentary Blackfish, interviewed alongside fellow scientists, truthfully revealing the cruel truth behind orca shows. The documentary won many major awards and nominations, and Beneath the Surface is his book published in 2015. Now, why you? The book has 12 chapters and 200,000 words. In the book, John tells the story of how he became a trainer and his experiences with orcas. He also combines scientific research findings to present the cruelty of captive orcas. The book's second author, Howard Chua-Eoin, is a seasoned media professional who served as news director for Time magazine and is currently executive editor of Bloomberg Opinion. The book won the 2015 Reader's Choice Award from Goodreads, a renowned American book recommendation site, and was selected for the New York Times annual book list that same year. Next, I'll interpret the book's main content through two parts. First, how orcas became performers in marine parks. Second, how captivity causes orcas to suffer. Where is the path forward for captive orcas? First, in part one, let's examine how orcas entered marine parks and became animal stars. First off, orcas have absolutely no relation to tigers. In fact, compared to blue whales and humpback whales, orcas are more closely related to dolphins. They belong to the toothed whale family, specifically the dolphin family, and are the largest in this group. Adult orcas can reach nearly 10 meters in length and weigh over 9 tons. Orcas are social animals that live and hunt in family groups. Their prey ranges from fish to seals, sea lions, and even much larger humpback whales. Their massive size, sharp teeth, and expert hunting skills not only place orcas atop the ocean food chain, but also earned them a poor reputation historically. Past fishermen viewed them as monstrous beasts, leading to their Western nickname, killer whale. The Chinese name Hu Jing comes from Japanese, both implying a fierce, formidable creature. But in reality, there are no recorded incidents of orcas harming humans in the wild. In 1964, Vancouver Aquarium in Canada wanted an orca specimen, leading to the first captive orca named Moby Doll. The next year, another orca accidentally got caught in a salmon fishing net. That orca was sold to a Seattle aquarium named Namu. The owner even made a film featuring Namu. After its release, North Americans discovered orcas weren't vicious monsters, but gentle black and white dolphins. Namu drew huge crowds, prompting the owner to capture Shamu, a female orca, as his companion and performer. After debuting in 1965, Shamu became a superstar. People were amazed by the orca's strength and size, yet could also sense their kindness towards humans. But what people didn't know was that both Shamu and Namu met tragic ends. Namu died the same year he was captured. Before his death, he frantically bashed his head against the tank wall and ultimately drowned. Shamu died 6 years after capture from pyometra, a bacterial uterine infection rarely seen in wild orcas. Ironically, as Shamu gained fame, the business model of captive orca performance has emerged. Initially, marine parks used violent methods to capture orcas. The documentary Blackfish depicts a 1970 whale capture operation. In Washington state's Puget Sound, people first used explosives to scatter the pod. Then speedboats deployed nets to trap separated calves. They targeted calves because adult transport costs were prohibitive. This operation killed 3 orcas, while survivors circled the netted calf, emitting distress calls for hours. A participant later called it the worst thing he'd ever done, equivalent to kidnapping a child from its mother. After Washington state banned captures, whalers moved operations to Iceland. In marine parks, orcas became the most popular attraction. Around 2000, their price reached $15 to $20 million each in the U.S. Their demand speaks volumes. Thousands, especially children, became deeply fascinated with orcas. The book's author, John, was one such child. In 1986-year-old John first saw an orca show at SeaWorld and was instantly captivated. SeaWorld, America's largest marine park with locations in Florida, California, and Texas, became young John's dream workplace as a trainer. But achieving this was incredibly difficult. First, you needed a degree in psychology or marine biology. Second, trainers needed public speaking skills, animal welfare experience, organizational abilities, and volunteer work to demonstrate showmanship and animal passion. Most crucially, trainers needed exceptional swimming and deep diving skills. John studied psychology, joined marine mammal conservation groups, and practiced deep diving while surfing in the Gulf of Mexico. As the saying goes, opportunity favors the prepared. In 1993, 20-year-old John stood out from 27 candidates and secured a training opportunity at SeaWorld. An intern position. Orcas are the largest marine animals trained in aquariums, posing high risks. Even a slight bump can cause internal injuries in humans. These highly intelligent animals read human cues and often bully unfamiliar faces. So interns couldn't train or swim with orcas, only handling support tasks, like reciting lines to audiences, hauling fish around, even approaching the pool required senior trainer supervision. In this second intern year, John became an assistant trainer at SeaWorld San Diego. He still couldn't train orcas, starting with sea lions and dolphins instead. After excelling with smaller animals, John transferred to the orca tank within 2 years, a rare promotion since many never enter it. His dream chapter began. As a trainer, he not only taught orcas tricks, but also entered water to perform alongside them.
After mastering water entries in surfing, he tackled the most dangerous stunt, the rocket hop.
Here's how it works. The trainer rides the orca diving deep, then rockets upward to be launched 10 meters high. Mistakes have dire consequences. Only a few trainers attempt this. To qualify, John trained with professional diving coaches, relentlessly practicing 10-meter jumps. Trainers must also build deep K report through long Mura adjustment periods. For example, placing a foot on the rostrum, the small bony protrusion at the orca's snout tip, barely fitting 1 foot while its body is glass smooth. Standing there, trainers signal orcas through foot pressure changes, like pressing a car's accelerator. When trainers stand atop this multi-ton beast, capable of 40 to 50 kilometers per hour speeds, surfacing from depths, water pressure feels like a roaring train rushing at them. And after leaping from the water, the orca propels the trainer upward, The trainer then springs from its rostrum, somersaulting through the air while passing through a ring before both descend together back to the surface. Ooh. The slightest error could cause severe injury or death. So how is such deep catchy between humans and orcas developed?
First, animal training's behavioral foundation is food motivation. Orcas cooperate for rewards, repeating actions until memorized.
But beyond this, orcas have higher emotional needs. They crave trainers' affection and enjoy interaction.
An orca named Takara often sought John's touch, especially enjoying massages inside her mouth, sometimes valuing this more than food.
Orcas are extremely sensitive to trainers' body language and expressions. If after a show, trainers just mechanically toss fish without eye contact, orcas notice and remember, sometimes seeking revenge later. Thus, good trainers must show patience and care. Orcas reciprocate with warmth. When John once sank injured after a failed stunt, Takara anxiously called to him before gently nudging him to safety. Another female orca, Hala, was exceptionally gentle and patient, sensing human emotions. Practicing rocket hops with new trainers, she'd only dive halfway down. When launching novices, she'd be extra gentle. Despite this, John's 14-year career left him covered in scars. These injuries came from two sources. First, real training is inherently high risk. Human or orca mistakes can cause disability or death. John worked with an orca named Keto who was poorly trained. Unlike others who avoided trainers during rocket hops, Keto had non-standard movements. Once during descent, Keto landed his 310 body directly on John, leaving a circular spinal scar. Sometimes orcas attack trainers deliberately. Like Shamu mentioned earlier, she bit people 3 times. The last incident happened during a promotional photo shoot when she disobeyed commands and deliberately knocked a model into the water. And in the water, she relentlessly chased the model, biting her limbs and lower body repeatedly. The model survived but required over 100 stitches, leaving lifelong scars. Why did Shamu do this? We may never know, but such incidents were far from isolated at SeaWorld. According to National Geographic, from 1988 to 2009, SeaWorld recorded over 100 orca incidents, causing 11 permanent injuries and 1 death. John personally endured multiple attacks. During underwater training with an orca named Freya, she suddenly refused commands, pushing John toward the pool center with her rostrum, then batting him around like a ball.
She'd bit John, repeatedly dragging him underwater while trainers on shore sounded emergency alarms.
Normally, Freya would return to shore at the alarm, but this time, she ignored it, continuing to pull John deeper. John saw bloodshot streaks in Freya's blue iris, her back muscles tensed, while she emitted pre-attack vocalizations. Trainers on shore sounded a second set of emergency tones. Fortunately, Freya responded this time and received fish rewards. John survived. The entire ordeal lasted under 15 minutes, but he knew his life could have ended there. Why would orcas deliberately attack trainers? These experiences made John gradually question the ethics of captivity and performances. Now we enter part 2. How does captivity cause orcas to suffer? First, despite their power, artificial environments make orcas fragile. Captivity is prison compared to the ocean. Wild orcas swim over 60 kilometers daily, diving repeatedly to 30 to 150 meters depths. Captive tanks are often just 3 to 4 times their body length. They endure chlorinated water and excessive lighting, causing skin diseases and bacterial infections. Shallow water can't support their tall dorsal fins. Combined with sun overexposure, many adult males suffer collapsed fins. In the documentary Blackfish, SeaWorld trainers lied to the audience, claiming this was normal. SeaWorld says 25% of orcas get collapsed dorsal fins with age, but a scientist refuted that in the wild, it's less than 1%. Besides being out for training and shows during the day, orcas just sit still in small pools the rest of the time. Orcas have super high intelligence. They probably realize this is how they'll spend their whole lives.
Sometimes they desperately slam their bodies against gates to release their despair.
To kill boring time, orcas develop lots of bad habits. like regurgitating, which burns the esophagus lining and damages tooth enamel with stomach acids, or grinding teeth, which wears them down, causes infected cavities, and some end up dying from bacterial infections. 2 orcas even died from infections caused by mosquito bites. SeaWorld once had an orca named Kiska. She had serious digestive diseases, including stomach ulcers from extreme stress. At age 15, she died from peritonitis due to ulcer perforation.
Veterans found lots of filter sand in her stomach. This sand was for water purification but leaked into the pool from machine failure.
Out of boredom, she hung out daily at the water inlet, sucking sand into her belly. This sand worsened her ulcers and likely caused intestinal perforation, leading to fatal peritonitis. A 2005 Canadian study found wild female orcas live about 50 years, males 30 years on average, with lifespans up to 80 to 90 years. The author tallied 50 dead captive orcas in marine parks. Their average lifespan was just 10.5 years. Actually, it's not just orcas. Other animals at SeaWorld have the same problems. For example, sea lions performing on concrete instead of sand all develop severe arthritis. Plus, due to aging filters, sea lions swim long-term in chlorinated salt water, and most go blind. For orcas, worse than the cramped life is losing normal social bonds. Captivity causes chronic stress and even psychological distortion. Why is this? First, without elder guidance, orcas easily develop behavioral abnormalities and even violent tendencies during growth. Orca families are matriarchal societies. A pod is typically led by the mother, with fathers, sons, and daughters following her. When daughters start their own families, they become sub-leaders, but still obey their mother and live nearby. Sometimes female orcas even care for their brothers and uncles. Strong bonds exist between pod members. Mothers play with calves, young females help care for siblings, practicing motherhood while males socialize together. Much like human men bonding over beer and sports, maternal guidance is crucial. Normal social relationships guide orcas' mental and behavioral maturity, teaching them to suppress violent impulses. In contrast, captive orcas are like parentless wild children, lacking adult guidance and social rules, with trainers unable to replace mother orcas. This pattern occurs in other species too. For example, African farmers protecting crops killed adult elephants, leaving calves without discipline. These calves became more violent than their predecessors. Moreover, orcas separated from their pods easily clash with others. There are at least 10 distinct orca populations globally. Oceans are vast, with distant populations developing unique cultures and behaviors. They hunt differently, vocalize differently, and can't communicate linguistically. Forcing different populations into cramped cohabitation is like aliens abducting humans from different countries and locking them in the same tiny cell for life. This severely threatens their sense of security, making conflict and anxiety inevitable. Some orcas even died tragically from captivity conflicts. Beyond psychological torment, their physical needs are devastated too. Orcas are among Earth's few species that engage in sex for pleasure, and rare mammals experiencing menopause. So within the same orca family, postmenopausal females may mate with young males. This is grandmothers providing first-hand sex education to their grandchildren. But within the pod, fertile females and males aren't permitted to mate. During mating season, males leave to breed with females from other pods, returning to their birth families afterward. But in marine parks, limited choices led to mother-son and uncle-niece matings. Both taboo relationships ended tragically. The mothers rejected their inbred calves, with one dying within a year. Moreover, after 1970s public protests, SeaWorld couldn't capture wild orcas, forcing captive breeding instead. Later, to avoid inbreeding and reduce transport costs for mating, SeaWorld turned to artificial insemination, a extremely cruel process for orcas. In 2000, SeaWorld performed the world's first orca artificial insemination. For males, it's relatively simple: manually stimulated ejaculation. Even so, only 3 males adapted well by the book's completion, one siring 17 offspring. Procedure for females is far more painful. Before first insemination, they spent 6 months training a female named Kasatka to accept insertion tubes, teaching her to roll upside down and hold breath for 10 minutes. The tube insertion was agonizing. Kasatka would tightly shut her eyes each time. To comfort her, they'd place her daughter in the pool, even during insemination. After 2010, SeaWorld required all fertile park orcas to undergo repeated artificial insemination to accelerate breeding. Even crueler, they impregnated underage females and those without post-birth recovery. Publicly, SeaWorld claimed this was for genetic diversity of the species. SeaWorld disregards not only orcas' reproductive instincts but also their familial bonds. It frequently separates mother orcas from their calves, transporting them between different parks for breeding performances. To them, orcas are merely assets on the company's balance sheet. In 2004, Kasatka's daughter and granddaughter were sent to another park. Long after they left, Kasatka continuously emitted a vocalization never heard in her 30 years of captivity. Researchers recorded and analyzed it, concluding it was a long-distance communication signal.
Kasatka sensed her daughter wasn't nearby and was calling out to the world with all her might.
In short, for such intelligent and emotional animals, captive life is unbearable. Many trainers like John and orca scientists believe frequent attacks stem from captivity's psychological toll. Dr. Lori Marino, a cetacean neuroscientist at Emory University, notes orcas' highly developed neocortices enable conscious choices. This implies captive orcas' attacks may be deliberate acts. Take Shamu, who witnessed her mother killed during capture, believed to have severe psychological trauma. Or Freya, who attacked John. She was prone to rage. Captured in Iceland in 1982 at just 1 or 2 years old, John believes she remembered her free ocean life, now confined to concrete tanks. This may fuel her anger, yet SeaWorld often covered incidents or blamed trainers. It wasn't until a 210 incident at SeaWorld Orlando that the public saw captive orcas' truth. This accident directly transformed the orca performance industry.
During a show, senior trainer Dawn Brancho was grabbed by the arm and dragged underwater by an orca.
45 minutes later, Dawn was finally pulled from the orca's mouth. By then, she had long died, her body mutilated beyond recognition in a gruesome scene.
The orca involved was named Tillicum, nicknamed Tilly, captured at age 2 and taken to Canada's Sealand, a very basic marine park.
For intensive training, they paired the inexperienced Tilly with a well-trained orca, forcing them to perform identical behaviors, both punished if Tilly failed, like food deprivation. This made the senior orca resent Tilly, biting him with its teeth. Tilly was often covered head to tail in wounds. At night, he and other orcas were confined to a 20 by 30 meter metal tank, spending 2/3 of their lives motionless there. In 1991, Tilly grabbed a man's boot and dragged him underwater. Sealand publicly claimed a man drowned, creating an illusion of accident. After this incident, Sealand shut down and sold Tilly to SeaWorld. SeaWorld needed a male breeding whale. Tilly was essentially a sperm bank to them. As mentioned earlier, one male orca fathered 17 offspring via artificial insemination for SeaWorld. That was Tilly. Not only that, SeaWorld had Tilly with a history of harming people continue performing in the U.S. In 1999, a visitor sneaked into Tilly's tank and was found dead. Trainer Dawn Brancho was Tilly's third victim. After Dawn's death, SeaWorld's initial statement
Claimed a trainer accidentally slipped into the pool and drowned.
resulting in death. But witnesses protested the trainer was clearly dragged by Tilly. SeaWorld then admitted Tilly dragged her underwater by her ponytail, subtly shifting blame, implying trainers shouldn't have long ponytails or should tie them up. This maintained the docile orca image and illusion of their well-being at SeaWorld, because revealing orcas as aggression and captivity's distortion of their nature increases danger. It would make the public boycott orca captivity and shows, collapsing the business model. After the Dawn incident, SeaWorld immediately suspended all in-water work. In August 2010, OSHA banned all SeaWorld trainers from working in water with orcas. Dawn's death became the final straw for John. He once genuinely believed orca shows would make people care more about protecting wild orcas. But years of tragedies in tanks made him question whether Orca Captivity was right. SeaWorld repeatedly blaming trainers chilled John to the core.
He felt SeaWorld was indiscriminately exploiting both orcas and trainers.
In 2012, John resigned from SeaWorld. 1 week after leaving, he was interviewed by the Blackfish documentary team.
The documentary became CNN's 2013 most watched program and was Oscar, BAFTA nominated.
Blackfish sparked massive backlash. Petitions led restaurants, airlines, and musicians to cut ties with SeaWorld.
Politicians joined calls for change, causing SeaWorld stock to plummet.
In 2016, California banned orca breeding. SeaWorld then ended orca breeding across all parks. Though orcas remained at SeaWorld performing, they stopped being main attractions. SeaWorld shifted focus to amusement rides. The infamous Telecom lived alone until his 2017 death. This book was published in 2015. For National Geographic, 69 orcas remained captive globally by 2019, 21 just in SeaWorld's 3 parks. They'll be its last captive generation, unable to return to the ocean. Some suffer severe tooth decay, requiring constant root canals to survive. Returning to the ocean would mean death by infection or starvation. Crucially, they'd now be homeless orphans in the sea.
For such highly social animals, this would be a death sentence.
Author John and other orca conservationists suggest SeaWorld build sea pens for them to educate folks about the harms of captivity to marine animals. Sea pens should be built in the ocean, anchored to the seabed to give orcas a mostly natural environment. Plus, they should gather solitary captive orcas worldwide, letting them live together to try building a social setup. Besides the US, aquariums in Canada, Argentina, Spain, and France have also banned orca breeding. In North America and Europe, ending orca captive shows is the big trend now. Author John writes in the book that the fight over captive orcas' future is really just part of the ethical battle about human-animal relationships. If humans see themselves as stewards of all creation, then we ought to take responsibility to let all beings thrive freely, not abuse our power to hurt them. All right, that wraps up our take on Beneath the Surface. Reading notes are below the audio. Catch you next time.